Hello everybody, this is Marion with MyCraftBasketStudio, and today I'm going to do a tutorial entitled 5 Tools to Ink Paper Edges with Ink. It'll be available at my website at mycraftbasket.com. I'm not sure if I'll have a download yet, a free PDF to download, but check there and see if I do. I may post what I'm doing today. I may post pictures of it so you can see it. So you may say, well, what is distressed? What do you mean by distressed? When you have things that you want to give a vintage look for, you want to put something on the edge. And so on this page, this is from a book page, I've distressed the edges to make it look like it's vintage. And also I've distressed the tag as well, so it makes it look vintage. Another reason we do it, besides just making it look vintage, is it also gives dimension. It tricks the eye into thinking that there's a shadow there, and so it gives it dimension. So that's another reason why you want to do it. So the first thing I want to go over, I'm going to remove this. So as I said, if you want to see the video, make sure you stop by my website, mycraftbasket.com. And then also, if you find my tutorials helpful, please like and subscribe. So the first thing I do is I always want to have a piece of paper that I can do things on that's not going to mess up the work surface. So I always have, this is a good place to use your junk mail that you get, scraps of paper that you got. I've even made stuff out of this once I'm done because it's collaged already for me. This one I wouldn't, but there's been pieces where I've used a lot of stamps and I've stamped off on it and I go like, wow, that looks really nice. I use it for gluing, so that's why there's kind of a shiny look to this. That's where my glue stick was. And that's what I'm going to be using today. I'll use some clean paper so that you don't get distracted by all the things on there. And so I always have clean paper or paper out because this does require, the certain techniques do require you going off of the paper. And so what I've done is I'm going to go over some old tools and then go over the new ones. So when I first started, they used a round, it's a synthetic sponge that you can use. This is actually from like when you do painting. So for painters, you've probably seen this before, and that's exactly what it is. It's from when you go and use painting supplies. And so if it gets dirty, this can be washed. So just rinse it out with water and a little bit of soap, wring it out. And the way you use that, the way we used it when I was at the store was, I'm going to be using Vintage Photo. This is the oxide ink. And so we're going to, you just tap it on here on your pad. You really won't see it on your sponge, but when you go like this on your paper, you can see that it's leaving ink on the paper. And you just go around the side like that. If you need more, want a little darker, you just go a little bit more. So that is how you distress with the sponge. And you can, let's see, you can also use, I have on here Cosmetic foam wedge. Now these are just something I got from Dollar Tree. You can get them anywhere, Target, whoever sells makeup supplies. It's a condensed sponge. And so this is what we also used to use. And so we're going to go, and same thing, we're going to ink it up. On this now, you have to be a little careful. You see there's a lot more ink there. So now on this one, you want to go real careful, lighter pressure, and you're going to put that ink down. If I need more, I'm going to go back and get a little bit more. You can see that the sponge, you see how it feathered more. The sponge, this condensed sponge is more condensed. It's not as feathered. Now you can go like this with the condensed sponge. We call that swirling onto the paper. You start off the paper to get the biggest amount of ink off first before you go on to your cardstock. And I'm going to show you if I didn't do that, if I went right to the paper, you see how much heavier it is, and that's too heavy. So you want to start off the page and go on to the card. So you can do that with this wedge, you can. So if you're short on supplies, or not short on supplies, but short on funds, you might check these two options out. They work real well. So that is using the round synthetic sponge and a foam cosmetic sponge. The next one I want to show you is way back before Timmy came out with his tools. And Timmy, I mean Tim Holtz. I like to say Timmy because it reminds me of Lassie. And so we made our own type of applicator. So this is just a wood block. You can see at one time it had a stamp probably on it. Or maybe it's just a blank one that I didn't put a stamp on. And I put a piece of hook Velcro there on the edge, adhered it. And the reason it's got this color on it is because I also used it with alcohol ink. That's actually another reason why we made these, because they didn't have Tim Holtz's applicators yet. So we had to have something where we did the polished stone technique with alcohol ink. And if you're interested in that, leave a comment on my video to let me know if you'd like to see how the polished stone technique is done. So we just cut felt. This is just something, you buy your piece of felt from the fabric store, cut it into a strip that will fit on your block, and the felt sticks to that Velcro. That is what we used to use. And so same thing, you're going to ink it up. You'll see that the ink is on there, and then you do again want to start off the page, and you're going to swirl in. This leaves a very, very soft edge, which if you're doing something that's maybe baby related or love related, like a Valentine's Day card, you want something that's soft. This is the way to do it. So you can see that it's very, very soft. You can also do it the other way by going like this. It works as well. You can go like that. And depending on how far you tilt in your stamp, your applicator, I should say, is how far in your distressing will go. So if I tilted it further, you can see that it goes up further. But usually on mine, I like it about like this. This is how I usually like mine. So that's what we used to use way before Timmy came out with his applicator tools. All right, so that is that one. The next one is the Tim Holtz applicator tools. He developed, the first one he developed was, hey, this looks kind of familiar, doesn't it? It looks just like our wood block, but what he did was they put a handle on it, which does make it more convenient, I have to agree. As soon as I started using this, I go like, oh, this is much better. The process is exactly the same. You ink up the applicator, and you do the same thing. You do the swirling. A little bit of felt there. Now this one, because it's bigger, it's wider, it goes in a lot further than the small one I had because it's wider, so it reaches in on the card more. Now the other thing you can do, same thing, you can take your applicator and you can go like that. Same thing. So they used that, and we did use this for the alcohol ink method. And then they came out, I don't know if they found out that, hey, people are using those foam sponges. Maybe we should do that as well. So they came out with an applicator that's round, and it has a little, and actually I should say, for these, they actually made the foam pad as well. So the foam pad might not be available now, but they did make the foam pad for that. And so this is the round one. It fits with Velcro just like our homemade one does. And then that goes on there, and this is foam. And so same thing. And I want to show you, this is mine that I use, and I use it tons. And I've labeled it with VP, meaning vintage photo. And you can see how worn down my foam is compared to the brand new one. Hopefully you can see. And I keep using it because think of all the ink that is already in there. And so when I go to do it, I don't have to ink it up quite as much. In fact, there's times when I want just a little bit. So there's already ink on there. I'll show you an example. So if I go like this, I have not inked it yet. But look at all the ink that is still on there. And that's exactly, this is the tool I use, as you can see by where, that's what I use. Now the other thing I want to show you about the foam one, if I were to go and do a swirl, it's much heavier. You can see how much heavier it is. And also it kind of leaves that round mark because the applicator itself is round. So I don't really care for that look. If I'm going to do any kind of feathering in, I'm going to probably use the felt one if I want to go in further. This is generally the look that I'm going for when I do my stuff. So that is his applicators. And then they came out with blending brushes. I don't know who discovered these first. I've seen them on lots of sites. I found them at Dollar Tree, just in case you didn't know that you're spending $6 for a brush. You might find them at Dollar Tree. I can't remember which one I found at Dollar Tree, but it's used for makeup, basically what it is. Now, I've seen a lot of people use these, and you do the same process. You go like this on the edge of the paper. Now, this also, as you can see, I don't use it very much, so maybe my technique isn't as good as it could be, but you can see where it's kind of around there where the brush was round itself. It does do a nice feathering. So that is one nice thing about it. You can feather out the edge as far in as you want to go. As far as doing it on the side like I like, let's try it. Oh, it doesn't work too bad. It actually does very well. And in fact, I think I like that better than the swirl. So now the other thing I want to mention, the reason I also do just exactly this is, do you see how much ink is on my paper? How much was left that I won't be using now because it's on my scrap paper? So that is why I actually recommend, if you're going to distress anything, to hold it and go like this, because all the ink that's on here is going to be on here instead of down here, if that makes sense. But most certainly, if you want a feathered edge, please do it this way. That's the only way you're going to get a feathered edge. Now, the other way you can do it, you can actually take your ink pad and you can drag it on your paper. Now, it's going to be very intense. As you can see, it's very dark. And it just leaves almost like a marker line on there. If I go all the way across, it leaves a marker line. And be aware that there's going to be ink on there because you're scraping the ink off of the pad. There's going to be ink there. So be aware of that. You don't end up transferring it to your project. So if you're doing that, make sure you let it dry or wipe it off before you continue to work with it, because there's going to be ink scraped, kind of like butter on a butter dish from a knife. You scrape the knife off, you got all the butter on the edge. It's the same thing. So that is what I wanted to show you today, and I'm going to also show you one little quick thing. I want to show you how to ink pads. I've seen some people ask that. This is just kind of a little side thing that I'm doing on this video today. So we've got the distressed ink, and also a lot of people maybe don't know just exactly what is the difference between the original distressed ink and the oxide ink. And what it is this is like the oxide, this is water-based, so it's translucent. And I'm going to read exactly what Google says, because in that way I give you the correct information directly from Google. It says, distressed inks are transparent dye inks, meaning the color of the underlying paper shows through. Distressed inks oxides are opaque fusions of dye and pigment, allowing you to stamp or blend lighter colors over darker cardstock, which you saw in my tag. That is exactly how I got the dark edge on my brown tag, is I used the oxide. So if that's something that you didn't know and go like, oh, that's how you get it on a darker card, that's what I used. So I'm going to show you how to re-ink your ink pads. This goes for any ink pad. And speaking of any ink pad, you can do this technique of distressing your paper. You can do that with any ink. You don't have to use just distressed ink. You can do it with a pigment ink. You can do it with dye-based ink of another manufacturer. Whatever matches your product, or I should say your project that you're working on. If you're working on something that's pink, use a pink, and you're using pink ink, distress the edges with the pink ink. And it does not need to be distressed ink. Do test it and see if it does what you want it to do. If it's a darker paper, you might want to consider getting the oxide, because, or using a pigment ink, because the pigment ink will show up better on the darker paper. So this is a distressed re-inker. It's a glass bottle, and so that's what it is, by Ranger. And so what I do is I take the dropper and I just go like this. And when you re-ink your ink pads, less is better than more. So, and then I just take the side of the dropper and just kind of rub that ink in. And that's all I'm going to put on there. You can see it soak in. It's a dry pad. And so when it soaks in, then it's good. And when I store my ink pads, I do store them upside down. I know that water-based ink, it can migrate down to the bottom. This is like a felt pad, and it's going to absorb that ink, but it's also going to go down to the bottom. It's going to migrate to the bottom. So to help it from staying at the bottom, store your pad upside down. I do that with all my pads, even my pigment ones. So it doesn't hurt them, and it's just that way I know that the ink is always at the top. This is for the oxide. It's thicker, so it's got a little ball in there so that it mixes up the ink before you put it in there. Make sure you shake it well. And then same thing with this, less is better than more. And my pad is dry, so I'm going to go ahead and put some on there. And that's exactly how I put it on there. And you can see it soaking in. Now, sometimes without squeezing, I will rub it in. I'm not squeezing the applicator right now. I'm just using the tip of it to rub the ink in. It gets it so that there's not a big pool in one spot. You want to make sure that you don't want to pull it all in once in the center. You want to spread it out like I did, like you're doing ketchup on a piece of bread. You squeeze it out, and then you spread it out. So you don't want to put it all in the center and then try to do it, because it's going to be intense in the center and nothing's going to get to the outside. So that's why you swiggle it. All right, I think that is all I wanted to go over today. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, as I said, please leave a remark. If there's something else you want to go over, please let me know in the comments. I'll lay these out so you can see them. And thank you so much for stopping by, and have a great day. Bye-bye.